Hey, good afternoon, good morning, whatever time you're viewing it. Hey, this is T. Scott Randall. I'm doing a video today on the researcher that I was assigned to in our course. In this case, it is K. David Roach, extraordinaire. I tell you, I had a good talk with Dr. Roach. Very, very approachable, very nice man. Very, very interesting as a researcher as well. So my concept with this video is sort of like the Bob Dylan. He's flipping down the signs. One of his early music. I guess they would call it a video at that time. But anyway, so that's my concept here, and I want to do something a little different than just narration over PowerPoint. You know what I mean? So here, this is Dr. Roach right here. Let me see if you can see that very well. So right there, right off the website, very nice hair. And I got to show you this one. This one is extraordinary. This is Dr. Roach from his profile on the website as the Associate Dean of Academic Affairs for the College of Arts and Sciences. But what's really amazing here, so that's Dr. Roach right there. You can see he's got the nice suit and everything. What's amazing here, I don't know if you can see it, is this other figure right there. Now, what I did is I magnified way in because I was interested. Who is this person walking into his shot? And lo and behold, I couldn't believe it, but it was Dr. Ferris right there. And the way you could tell is it was his brand of cigarette, his Benson and Hedges. You can make it. It's incredible what video can do now. But anyway, so Dr. Roach, so he got his EDD in higher education and speech communication, and that was from Texas Tech. So you can see he's a West Texas boy. Got his master's from Abilene Christian and his bachelor's. And he is currently the Assistant Dean for Academic Affairs, Department of Arts and Sciences. So big wig, right? You know what I'm saying? With respect to let's start with his teaching. So what he's done. So right now, he actually teaches undergraduate classes in the honors program. And he does that in business and professional communication, you can understand. But he also teaches in the TCR program. He teaches a graduate course in quantitative methods. So I hear it's a good one. Tough but good. All right. So let's get to the research. That's why we're here, right? He has always focused on the field of communication studies. Now, and then the website, and then from our discussions, here are some of his interests on there. So we're talking about communication apprehension, influence communication, nonverbal, argumentativeness, organizational communication, leadership. So I just pulled this off the web as well. Here's a book that he co-authored. Nice textbook there. And this is pretty interesting, I got to say. So I just did a search, right, on Google Scholar. K. David Roach, Texas Tech University. I don't know if you can see it at the top there. And let's just see what kind of scholar we've got here. So here's page 1, where he either was the sole author or co-authored a journal article. Page 1. Page 2. And half of page 3. But wait for it. There's also a back. Incredibly prolific author. Not necessarily in the last 10 years, but with his work in the, sort of the administration side of the house, but incredibly prolific as a faculty member. So keep that in mind. So what is his current research interests? He said that he's really interested in medical communication. Things like, between the doctor and patient, and also on the TCR side of the house, that especially in technical communication, sort of the written side, as in what websites say, are those user friendly, are the medical advice given, is that actually in the written form, is it digestible by the patient itself. So I'll read you a quote real quick here. He says, because everybody goes to the doctor, and when you get your prescription, you can hardly read it. Now that may be a little dated. I haven't seen a written prescription in a while, and you just hope that the pharmacist can read it. That is a big hope. But it's even more than that. It's more about the follow-up. And if a hospital has a web page that patients can go to and look up different conditions or whatever, how is that being put out there? The employees talk about, do they talk about WebEx or usability studies and all that? I doubt it. So that's the opening he's talking about for folks in our department. I think hospitals could use a lot of what we do orally, but specifically in an English department with TCR, I think they could use a lot of what we know in written form as well. So that's his current interests. Now let's go to, what does he say researchers should be doing, or what advice he has. So that's the way I couched it. So what advice does he have to researchers? Well, it should sound pretty familiar to the class. So research something that you're really interested in, right? And that you want to know the question, you want to know the answer to the question you're posing. So you're going to be spending a lot of time with this, and is it going to be fun? That's the way he couched it in his terms. If you're researching something that you don't like, it's not going to be that fun. So why don't you make it enjoyable? His second piece of advice is regarding methodology. He says, let your methodology be driven by the research question. If the research question calls for quantitative methods, then do them. Do the statistics, right? If it calls for, a textual analysis, then look at the text, etc. His third piece of advice is be able to answer the so what question. Why is what you're doing meaningful? Why is it meaningful to you, and more importantly, meaningful to others? What can it do for people? What can it do for researchers, etc.? And he jumped in with a fourth one. He wanted to do the 3. Everybody wants 3, but he went with 4. He said, look for a faculty member that's doing what you want to do, who's researching what you want to research, and do what they're doing. So look at the sources, the journals they're publishing in, the methods, all that sort of thing. And he used the word mimic. Mimic what they're doing so that you can be successful. So I thought all that was really good advice. And now for a couple just odds and ends things. So we talked about, and I asked him, I said, why did you go with an EDD as opposed to a PhD if you're going to be an academic? And so what did he say? He said, well, my goal was to teach at the college level, but to also be an administrator. And the way he bridged the gap between the two is he said that when he did his research as not a PhD student, but an EDD student, he wanted to make it academically, valid, but also user-friendly and practical for someone that's in administration. So if you look at at least the early research he did a lot of it on like leadership studies with respect to people in administrative positions in universities. So I thought that was a good answer, and that's sort of where he was coming from. And he also said that a lot of the researchers that he respected and that were the most prolific actually had EDDs. So I thought that was interesting. And then the last bit of discussion we had was really about his hobbies, him as a human being. And if you look on his profile on the associate dean on his little webpage, it talks about his interest in music. And so I asked him about that. I sort of broached it with the Ken Burns series on country music now. So we got to talking, and he said, well, some things what you do to get paid for, and then there's some things that you do that because you really enjoy it. And so he said he started out thinking he was going to be a band director because his family background was one where his family all played music, they all sang, that sort of thing. And so he ended up not going that route, obviously, but he did say that he continues to arrange choral music for churches, and that he It's pretty interesting. He arranges church music for what he said, quote, church music ministry. So he sees that as part of his sort of his religious mission, to put his talents toward the music, and in furthering his religious goals as well. So that's what I have for K. David Roach, KD to his friends. So signing off now. If you have any questions, let me know. Gracias and goodbye.